the Mets. Meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, 'cause we got ourselves a ball club, the Mets of New York town. Give 'em a yell! Give 'em a hand! And let 'em know you're rooting in the stand. Come on and meet the Mets. Meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town, of New York town.
And we're back, Mets and baseball fans. Thank you guys so much for chiming in. This is live stream number 2 on the day, and live stream, I don't know, 100 over the past couple days. That's what it's felt like since really the last 48 hours leading into the lockout ending. No less, today is day 4 of the MLB free agent frenzy, and covering things from a Mets side of you, Mets standpoint, and of course the overall MLB standpoint. As we know, the hot stove, as currently discussing with you guys, is not hot reportedly, but as we've learned by now, all it takes is for one bomb to drop for everything to actually go loose, and we've seen that yesterday. We saw it a little bit earlier today. So we'll be getting into everything that we know to this point, folks, so definitely keep an eye on that, as well as just everything in the MLB. I'm very excited again this live stream, guys. I'm sure you are too. Shout out all you guys in here. Really, really do appreciate that. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button if you're excited tonight. All indications is that this will be another very long, very extended live stream. So we'll be getting into, of course, the news on Adam Ottavino. If you guys would like to talk about him more outside of what we did already earlier today, we will surely do that, along with plenty of other things. So again, thank you guys all so much for being here. Really, really do appreciate it. Shout out to every single one of you. Shout out to my members, all you beauties. Really do appreciate that. But without further ado, let's just dive right into this one, guys. Like I said, this is going to be hopefully a jam-packed live stream. Hopefully we have plenty of things to discuss, as we already have plenty of things to discuss at the moment. The Mets right now, very, very interesting. I'm very excited. You know, they, of course, did the Chris Bassett deal yesterday that you all know by now. If you guys did not check out yesterday's live stream or the quick breakdown that I posted in a separate video, make sure to do just that on Chris Bassett landing in the New York Mets. And, of course, the Mets gave up JT Ginn and Adam Oller in doing so. And today the Mets signed a righty reliever, that being an Adam Ottavino, to a 1-year, $4 million deal. Other than that, we saw news earlier as well, that being from the Minnesota Twins making moves happen. They did a trade, a significant one, landing Sonny Gray to help bolster their rotation, and they gave up some really promising prospects, including their 2021 first-round pick. In doing so, we saw the Red Sox sign Jake Diekman earlier too, and there's been other lower-level signings, but as of now, I would say that those are the biggest moves that have happened today for the most part, and hopefully that those aren't the last moves that happen today. I don't think that they will be, but again, we got a lot to get into. I really want to break down with you guys the Buck Showalter and the Billy Eppler presser, because I know that if you're looking at that just by based on certain quotes, you might be under the impression that, oh, the Mets will go a certain way. You might be under the impression that the Mets go another way. So as long as it's okay with you guys, I really do want to start off today's live stream by breaking down everything that transpired in the little presser with Buck and Billy, of course, being at spring training. All the Mets are at spring training right now, outside of a couple that are not there because of, either just got signed, traded to the Mets, or some family reasons. But thank you all so much again for being here, guys. Warren, Ryan, Dave, all you guys, thank you so much for being here. Jerry, thank you so much for the $10 donation too. I really appreciate that, my friend. Hype in the chat for Jerry Sanchez. Nina, my girl, if you guys don't know, that is my girlfriend, Nina. Thank you so much for the $2 donation, Nina. Now save those $2. You don't need to keep sending them my way. I appreciate it no less. Hype in the chat for Nina as well. As always, guys, appreciate everyone. Thank you so much for the 100 likes. They help us get to 300 likes for the next short-term goal. And Mega Frankie, thank you so much for the $5 dono there, too. All you guys, thank you all for the continued support, guys. Can't begin to tell you how much it means to me. But, all right, guys, I'm going to ask all you right now. Just give me a simple yes or no in the live stream will be more than sufficient. Should we start by talking about the Billy Eppler, Buck Showalter presser? Because, again, I think there were a lot of key takeaways to talk about from that presser that happened at 3 p.m. Eastern time today. So if you guys would like to break it down, which is what I want to do, let me know. Just give me a simple yes or no if you prefer that we start things off by talking about that, and then we'll get into everything else. Like I said, well, on live stream, we don't need to necessarily chomp at the bit for certain topics. We're going to have plenty of time to literally break down everything humanly possible, not just with the Mets, but with the MLB as a whole today. Okay, so we got one no out of, it looks like over 100 yeses. So we're going to start with that. My apologies to the people that said no. Just, bite the bullet. You will see us talk about more than just the presser very soon. But key takeaways from today's presser. One thing, it was damn fantastic to see Billy Eppler and Buck Showalter with each other. I know that we saw that previously. We haven't seen them much. It's awesome to see them finally in contact, of course, with the players. I know that Billy was saying he hasn't even gotten a chance to meet DeGrom yet. He was trying to earlier. That didn't transpire. I'm sure they met already now. But Billy's been very busy. And something that you noticed right away in this presser, as most of you guys would agree, is that Eppler was checking his phone the entire time, just as you would expect a GM heavily active in negotiations and potential deals in the heart of free agency and the trade market. So that wasn't surprising. What was a little surprising to some of you guys, and a little bit to me, but while thinking about it, it really didn't catch me off guard. And I think that there's a real meaning behind this. And Billy Eppler said that he feels, for the most part, fairly comfortable with what the Mets offense is right now. And he said that he would be fairly surprised if the Mets add another bat, specifically a big bat, because I know that's what DJ Thozar actually asked him about, a big bat. But I will say this, Billy Eppler, we've always been under the belief from going into the lockout that was kind of the vision that the Mets were doing reportedly. Here's two ways to look at this situation. One, Billy Eppler and the Mets truly believe that there is no need to go out and land any other real offensive pieces. Or two, and I'm damn certain that this is a reality, he's saying this to the public because of obvious reasons. If the Mets say go out and do not land a specific player that they were trying to get originally, or say they were trying to do something via trade and it doesn't work, that'll obviously make it look better for them naturally, because hey, you shouldn't have expected them to do anything crazy offensively after what they did pre-lockout. But in reality, it makes things safe. And I think it's also better for him and their market approach as well. Because if he goes out and say, I really want to go after these players and this and that, it's not going to give them as much leverage in negotiations when you make those kind of public statements. So I'm really happy, to be quite honest with you, that Billy said what he said, because he made it abundantly clear that they're going to remain opportunistic on all type of avenues, not just in the free agent market, but the trade market. And he said that, he can't say that the Mets are done with moves because it all varies on the situation. There's a lot going on right now. That's why he was so busy on the phone. He got that phone call, which led him to rush out of there in the presser. Have to wonder who exactly was on the other end of that phone call. Was it an agent for a specific player? Was it a team? Something along those lines. But Billy did emphasize something that I thought was really important today. And I really, really want to know what your thoughts are on this. Was that he has been in constant contact with Steve Cohen. Steve Cohen, of course, has been at spring training today, which is awesome to see. Steve doesn't have a problem with the new Cohen tax. It's not phasing him. The Mets are more than likely going to touch a $300 million payroll going into the season. What Billy said is what really stood out to me. Steve Cohen has been adamant. They've talked about numerous things today, specifically, numerous different possibilities. And he said, keep bringing me opportunities. I love that. That tells you that Steve Cohen obviously wants to make sure that the Mets continue to make moves. Anything that can benefit the Mets right now that they feel is best for this club, they're going to continue to address. The Mets are still heavily active in the relief pitching market. It looks like that they are going to land a lefty Who's that going to be? Is it going to be a Josh Hader? Pipe dream. I would love it, but I'm not getting my hopes up. More realistic options are obviously Andrew Chafin, Brad Hand, Tony Watson, so on and so forth. Because Jake Diekman, of course, who was a solid lefty option, is in fact coming. Is going to the Red Sox on a multi-year deal. So the Mets are more than likely going to land a lefty. We know that by now. But the Mets offensively, that's a great question. And when you look at the free agent market, yes, there's that Kyle Schwarber. He's on the thumbnail right now if you guys are watching the live stream. Schwarber makes so much sense for the Mets as long as they figure out what they do trade-wise with their other DH options. And that's the thing, because Billy said it himself. Obviously, they're feeling confident with the guys they have. They know that they've had already great discussions with Cano. Cano is going to approach the team and talk with everyone about his PED suspension, which obviously is great. We knew that was going to happen. I think that was reported pre-lockout that Cano had intentions of doing that. So it's good to, of course, take accountability. Look, I don't dislike Robinson Cano personally or anything like that. He's just a huge question mark for this team, given his contract and given his age and not playing a game of MLB baseball over the past season. Naturally, that has caused fans to turn against him, including myself. It's not a personal thing. It's just the fact that, again, this guy, how much defense can he provide? What is he going to do? He's just a big contract for another couple years that the Mets, unfortunately, as of now, have to eat. So how do they prioritize that? Okay, right now it looks like that Robinson Cano is going to be coming off the bench in DH. That is the assumed position happening here. Can the Mets make a trade happen? We all know they can make a trade happen. Will they make a trade happen? That's something that, again, we may find out today. We may find out in the coming days. We may never find out in the sense that they do not do a trade. But J.D. Davis, Jeff McNeil, Dom Smith, those are all guys that have been in the mix. Jeff McNeil's not going to get traded unless it is a trade worth doing the trade, a win-win situation. And the fact that the Mets landed a bona fide, huge starter in the middle of this rotation without giving up Jeff McNeil makes you believe that the likelihood of parting with him, I would say, is far slimmer than what it was prior to landing Chris Bassett. I could, of course, be wrong. I'm just sharing my personal opinion. But you have to realize, again, the assets that the Mets have are significant. And these are guys that are them. Do the Mets really want to have Dom Smith and J.D. Davis off the bench this year? They could surely do it. But again, you have concerns because there's also going to be a lack of pinch hitting. There isn't going to be as much pinch hitting as you would naturally expect because of the fact that we have the universal DH now. That automatically takes opportunities away for your bench that you normally would have in all these previous years in the NL. The fact that you're going to not have a pitcher getting at bats every single game, you're going to have a bona fide DH spot every single day, means that naturally the bench is going to get less opportunities. So how willing are you to secure a bench role to the likes of Dom Smith, who's a first baseman and is not going to be playing in the corner outfield? Pretty confident saying that. J.D. Davis should not be getting a look at third base for the most part because of his glove. Again, nothing personal against J.D., but the guy doesn't have a glove. He's never had one since arriving with the Mets until proven otherwise. But the Mets gave him too many opportunities. They can't bank on that huge uncertainty defensively. He's really a DH type. Mets have multiple DH guys, right? And I would say that if the Mets didn't have the universal DH right now, I think we are in a little bit of a different discussion just because of the fact that you at least have more opportunities for those guys to get at bats pinch hitting wise when the pitcher is done, right? Or however you want to go about things. But because the Mets are not in that spot anymore, that's why it's just so hard to imagine they start the season with all those three. Jeff McNeil, obviously the most likely because he is your starting second baseman right now. And if he stays, then that means that hopefully the Mets got everything figured out with him, not just with Lindor, but with other people in the locker room that we talked about throughout the offseason. That was the biggest worry, right? But with the other guys, it's unbelievably difficult to fathom the idea that Dom Smith and J.D. Davis stay off the bench for the Mets this year because of the lack of defensive upside they have, two, the lack of defensive ability they have, versatility, I should say, and three, the lack of opportunities that they are going to have now that a universal DH is in place. So we're, again, very fluent situation. I expect the Mets. I am under the impression, and again, you can take my word, you can throw it out the door if you want to trust exactly what Billy said. But Billy made it clear today that they are going to continue to remain opportunistic. They're going to continue to make sure that they are involved in basically every avenue. He was very busy, again, with the phone. So there's no doubt in my mind that the Mets are not just, one, not done making moves, but two, that they are, in fact, still going to land at least one more bat. Now, that bat might not be a Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber would be awesome, but would I be surprised if Kyle Schwarber say goes to the Phillies and signs, a overpriced deal, a 4 or 5 year deal? No, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I think that it's honestly more realistic. than the Mets, just because we don't necessarily know right now how willing they are, if at all, to go after a bat on the free agent market. Maybe will they prioritize something via trade? Again, the Chris Bassett news literally came out of nowhere yesterday. No one expected. Granted, we've all had assumptions as to what pitchers or players the Mets would potentially land. Chris Bassett was always in that mix with the A's. But the point is that something that we learned is that nothing was leaked prior to that happening. So that tells you that the Mets do, in fact, go ahead and do another trade. Odds are it's probably not going to be leaked until it happens either. So it's one of those things that it's a wait and see situation. We know that story. Adam Ottavino wasn't as much of a surprise because we did see reports prior to indicate that the Mets were interested in him and that they were talking with him. So again, that was expected. But especially on the trade market, I don't believe we've seen really the Mets going after a guy where, via trade where, there was a lot of reports prior to that happening, which again is comforting for me because it tells you how well they've been able to keep those type of things in-house and really be exciting. So Billy Big Bucks, I'm very excited. I loved everything he had to say in the presser. I loved how excited they were. Buck Showalter, Buck is so happy. Jacob deGrom looks healthy, by the way, so keep that in mind, folks. Carlos, okay, stop with the fake news, please. I'm gonna put you in timeout. I'm gonna be nice. If you do it again, then I'll block you. Please, that's all I'm asking. I really, really like the fact that Jacob deGrom obviously looks like he's healthy. We're going to see exactly how much he gets ramped up. He looks like he's ready to go. So I'm assuming that he's fully healthy. I think we all should be under that impression too, because he's looked good for a while now. We just haven't seen the guy pitch in an MLB game in literally, a long time. Literally since what? Late June? Yeah, late June, because he didn't pitch. He hasn't pitched since before the All-Star break last season. So yeah, it's been a minute for sure. So Jake looks good. Max looks good. Bassett, I'm assuming, will be there by tomorrow. And yeah, everyone's looking good. So I'm excited. I'm very, very excited to see what's going to transpire. Love the presser today. And yeah, we'll just go from there. We will just go from there and see what transpires. I'm prepared, and I kind of hope, to be honest with you, that assuming more moves happen, that they aren't leaked much prior. It definitely brings a certain level of excitement that isn't anticipated. So it's a lot more raw, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. But again, my 800 plus viewers, thank you guys all so much for being here. God bless. I really do appreciate it. Hope you guys are all having a great weekend. I know that, again, on the hot stove as we speak, it is not hot reportedly, but same could be said yesterday. And then we got the Chris Bassett news out of nowhere when I sat my ass back in the chair after eating dinner. So that was pretty funny yesterday. Worry Fuzzy said Story is better than Lindor. Fuzzy can have his opinions. That's fine. Well, I'm not surprised that Fuzzy would say that about Lindor after he got traded. But they're both fantastic talents. Don't get me wrong. Joel Sherman tweeted something. I'll check Sherman's tweet right now, guys. Steve Cohen has seen the Steve Cohen tax and isn't exactly unnerved or deterred by it. Yeah, no, he's just recapping what Steve Cohen has said today. That's all it is. So if you guys are wondering what the Sherman tweet is, he just came out with an article. Okay, everybody, how are we feeling right now? How are we feeling in the chat, guys? All right, let me ask you guys in the poll. Let's do it simply. Let's do it just like this. Give me 1 second. I'm going to put a poll in the live stream. We're just around 200 likes already. Thank you guys so much for that. Always appreciate it. Help us get 300 likes for the next short-term goal. Help us get to 14K subs, too. Just around 150 subs away. I really think we're going to hit 14K by tonight. So, again, thank you guys all so much in advance. Let me ask you guys, I'm going to put up a poll if you guys think the Mets will make another move today. Curious if you guys think they will or they won't. And there we go. Awesome. Anyway, we land Freeman tonight, beyond slim. That would have to be the craziest shit imaginable to transpire. I don't see it. But I would like to talk for a second, guys, about what has transpired. Memory, appreciate that. What's been happening around the league? Freddie Freeman, as we know, it's the same stats: Dodgers, Yankees, Braves. Those are the three. Nelson Cruz, we did talk about earlier. Again, it looks like the Padres and the Dodgers are the teams in front. I did see a report by Hector Gomez, and he's been up and down with his reporting. He always has been. But regardless, he did report a little bit earlier that the Braves are still heavily involved on Nelson Cruz. I don't want to see Boomstick in the division unless he's with the Mets. Padres, I feels like that would be a very, very good spot for Cruz. I got to be honest. I think him and Tatis would be a lot of fun together, especially, you got the kid and you got the vet like that. So yeah, if in my personal opinion, if he's going to go anywhere in the NL as is, I would probably pick the Nationals first, just because I know that he would be going into a team that is not in a position to make playoffs this season. But secondly, I'd probably pick the Padres, just because even though that the Padres are going to be a problem for the Mets this year, Padres are an entertaining team. I enjoy them. I don't feel that way about the Dodgers, because I naturally just have, I always feel a certain way about the Dodgers. I admire the hell out of them, but I can never really root for the Dodgers, if that makes sense. San Diego, I can get behind a little bit more. And then obviously the last team imaginable I would want Nelson Cruz to go to would be the Braves, for obvious reasons, because one, they're the reigning World Series champs, and two, last thing we need is the Boomstick, facing up against the Mets in a Braves uniform. That just does not sound fun. It really doesn't. Suzuki, Cruz, and Hader are all most likely going to the Padres. No, I wouldn't say that at all, actually. No, I wouldn't say most likely in that, right? Especially the Padres are heavily trying to trade away the Eric Hosmer and Will Myers contracts. Those are not easy contracts to part with. Will the Padres be willing to really give up some of their top prospects to do it? Maybe. I mean, that Hosmer contract, that's a tough one to get rid of. The Cubs, I saw, everyone advocating for to make it happen. Will Myers is a little bit of a tougher situation, too, I would say. The Padres have some contracts they don't want to deal with. We know the rumblings that happened last trade deadline, especially with Hosmer more than anyone. So they clearly have their own concerns in-house contract-wise before they can really try to completely deep dive and go all in a certain aspect. So they have some, similar to the Mets, in the sense the Mets have the Robinson Cano contract, right? Would the Mets like to part with the Robinson Cano contract if they can? You'd have to imagine that they would. And again, it's not a personal thing. It's just for obvious reasons. Chafin tomorrow, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I want Andrew Chafin. I know that most of you guys do. He is the lefty. I'm trying not to get my hopes too up, because like anything else, it wouldn't surprise me if Chafin signs somewhere else for, say, a higher deal. Maybe even more than Aaron Loop, maybe a little bit less. Because again, it'll be interesting to see how much the Mets prioritize Chafin. I think that they're prioritizing him heavily from reports we've seen, but I know that they are interested in Brad Hand. He, of course, would, in my opinion, be a fallback plan should you not land someone like Chafin. Colin McHugh is still out there, but McHugh, I don't see the Mets doing after landing Ottavino today. They already got their right-hander, their Jeurys Familia replacement, basically. So I would love McHugh again, but I would be surprised if the Mets landed him at this rate after landing Ottavino. They didn't land Ottavino, then I think it's a completely different discussion. Pet Mets, thank you so much for the dono. Appreciate that. Hyping the shot for Pet Mets for the $10 dono. If VR is interested in a one-year contract, Mets should seriously consider it. Switch hitter, yep. Brad Hand, lefty reliever, and they should be good to go. No, look, I'm not against bringing VR back. I'm not at all, but there's been nothing to indicate to this point that VR is coming back. It seems like that there are other teams like the Blue Jays, like the Red Sox, like the Dodgers, because again, the Dodgers are in on everyone. Excuse me. The Dodgers are in on everyone. So I don't see it happening. Unfortunately, I would like VR back, but I think he's going to get a multi-year deal potentially somewhere else. I know that the Blue Jays apparently offered, a 1-year deal, 7 mil, 6.5, 7 mil, and he apparently rejected it. Then Hector Gomez said he didn't reject it. So a lot of back and forth on the VR front. I would like VR back, but I don't think it's going to happen at this rate. Thank you for the blessings, everyone. I appreciate that. And there has been a lot of rumblings that I saw. Let's see. There has been a lot of rumblings today that I have seen, and we saw recent reports regarding the Rockies. The Rockies are still very much in the market. They're trying to land one of those big bats, a Chris Bryant, a Michael Conforto, a Kyle Schwarber. They are in the market, which again, I understand why they're trying to do it. I think just for the sake of adding a bat, or you're going to get a little bit more fan enticement. I know that obviously the Rockies are not in a good spot right now, and they're just such an incompetent franchise. I hope for their sake truly that they can figure things out, because Rockies were a good team not long ago. Good, just a couple years ago. They were making some noise, and then they parted ways with Arenado and now Story and Gray and all these guys. Yep, Kikuchi's in Toronto. That is correct. We talked about him yesterday. But yeah, let's see. Rosario, Suzuki, Bryant, Hader trade? No. If I'm being completely honest with you, I don't think any of those things will happen for the Mets. I think Bryant is going to go to the Phillies or the Mariners. I think Suzuki is going to go to the Red Sox or the Giants. I think Hader is going to stay put because his cost will be too high. Again, I would love Hader, but I'm just not getting my hopes up on him until proven otherwise. And Rosario has some possibility, I will say, as a fourth outfielder, a depth fit for sure. But I think the Mets have better options as long as they pursue it. For me personally, I would rather the Mets land someone like a Tommy Pham, like a Jock Peterson, especially those two. I would personally want more than Rosario, especially Peterson, just because his lefty bat. I know Rosario was a stud in the playoffs and everything. Don't get me wrong, and maybe I'm wrong for being a little bit more against Rosario. It's not personal against him. I just don't think that the Mets have a heavy interest in someone like him, especially with his low on base career-wise and really his lack of defensive versatility, and being a righty bat. He's mainly just a left fielder versus Jock Peterson. Jock, yes, he plays in the corners, but Jock is that lefty bat. You can balance him as fourth outfielder / DH. Mets can get more creative with matchups versus someone like Rosario. And you also have, Tommy Pham. Tommy Pham, I know that there has been some questions about his clubhouse personality. I'd have to deep dive it. I know that I heard some things, with him, not just with Padres, but other teams. I feel like he's the type of player that really would bode well with the Buck Showalter system. I know that Wayne Kirby has spoken glowingly of him. Wayne Kirby is the Mets first base and outfield coach. Kirby, of course, was previously with the Padres, so he has a very good background of someone like Tommy Pham. And again, other options too, versatility. Well, we're going to talk about these guys endlessly until they get homes. But same thing with, Corey Dickerson, corner outfield bat, has some pop. Lefty bat, that's a sneaky pickup if the Mets pursue someone like him for off the bench. Brad Miller, similar situation, but Miller plays everywhere, so that's what makes him most enticing. Is Rosario? Oh, my mistake. Is Rosario a lefty bat? Oh, you know what, guys? My sincere apologies. I'm thinking Rosario is a righty because I'm thinking of Ahmad. That's the biggest issue. You're right. Eddie Rosario is a lefty bat, so that actually does make him a little bit more attractive than what he would have been if he's a righty. So my apologies. You guys are all 1,000% right. I'm sorry. I got Ahmad on my mind because I have a Ahmad Rosario and Michael Conforto bobblehead next to me for the Brooklyn Cyclones. They're like high-fiving like this. So yeah, I got the Ron Rosie on my mind. My apologies for that one. And my dog is now barking, so she better shut up in 2 seconds, or I'm gonna go and tell her to shut up. So hopefully that stops soon. I want Jock Peterson. He has a swag for New York. Oh yeah, he definitely has swagger. He was with the Dodgers, did really well with them. Balled out for the Braves when it mattered most to help them win a World Series. I think Schwarber should be a bigger priority. I think maybe Schwarber is being prioritized and we just don't know about it. I don't know. How much will Soler get? Soler's going to get a 3 to 5 year deal. That's what he's looking for. I don't expect the Mets to be involved there. And all reports have indicated that the Mets will not be involved there. Think Pearson makes the most sense? Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be against Jock. Let's go through Jock's numbers real quick, guys. Let's do that just for fun. Soler news. Yeah, Soler, the market has continued to heat up. There are numerous teams that are interested in Soler. The Mets are not one of them, reportedly. What do you think about Bryant? I love Bryant. I want him on the Mets. I really do. I think his versatility, his leadership, and his championship caliber are key. But I think Chris Bryant's going to sign a 6 or 7 year deal. And I think that's exactly why the Mets will not land him. Okay, bear with me 1 second, guys. I'm just looking up Jock Peterson's numbers here. I haven't looked at them a couple days. Shame on me for doing that, considering I've been talking about him a lot. Michael, thank you so much for the donation. Okay, if you believe Dom, JD, and McNeil will be traded, what players or player will you package them for? That's the thing. It's tough. It's tough because the Mets wouldn't do it for a starting pitcher. I mean, it would be surprising if they did because they managed to just land that bona fide starter without giving up any of them. So, I really don't know. I don't know. The only guy that would really come to mind other than Josh Hader and potentially other pieces from the Brewers, because Brewers need offense. They would automatically get that if the Mets did a bundle like that, but the Mets would have to make sure that they absolutely get the proper return. They would pitching wise, and they would have to make sure that they replace McNeil elsewhere, probably. How do you replace McNeil elsewhere? Well, there are some trade options, there's some free agent options, but not too many. It's a little scarce on that front on who exactly you could replace Jeff McNeil with in that infield to make sure that your team is still looking good. But yeah, I would say the Brewers. The Brewers definitely, I think, stick out if the Mets were to do a trade like that among 2 or if not 3, all those guys. Another team that just comes to mind, like Jose Ramirez. I mean, if they would be interested and gain JD, McNeil, and Dom. I mean, Dom can easily be their. I don't know who they even have at first base, to be quite honest with you. I'm not sure what their first base depth is, but if it's what I know in my mind, at least, I feel like Dom would be appealing there. JD Davis is one that they can toy what they want to do with him, at third/DH. And then McNeil, obviously, McNeil wouldn't hurt in that infield for sure. And he obviously has a versatility. And they're all on contracts that would make a team like the Guardians happy. But the thing is, if you land Jose Ramirez, you have to give up more than McNeil, Dom, and JD. It's hard to see a world where you don't give up a Ronnie Mauricio too, and potentially a little bit more. Like he'll cost you an arm and a leg, ridiculous amount is what I would imagine if you go after Ramirez. I don't expect to happen. That's a pipe dream and a half. But again, just to answer your question, those were the 2 teams that first stood out to me. What's up, Peter? Great member of the channel. Hey, Worry, what about the guys we have? Who could be a standout during the spring? Anyone who could be a sleeper? Okay. A sleeper? It's hard to really pick a sleeper because I think you guys should have the expectations of Mets being a very good team. Sleeper-wise, I mean, I'm thinking of Mark Vientos. I'm really excited to see how he's going to do just because he's the most MLB ready out of the Mets offensive prospects. The guys are position players and not pitchers. Pitcher-wise, there are definitely some guys to keep in mind. Adam Aller was really one of those guys, and the Mets just traded him yesterday, so I'd cross him off the board. There's a couple for sure. Jake Mangum is a guy that I'm interested to see how he's going to do in spring. Not that he's going to be with the Mets this year or anything, but to keep an eye on him. My apologies for the sneezing, guys. Allergies been killing me lately. You guys probably know that if you've been watching the streams. But also the Khalil Lee and Nick Plummer battle. I'm excited for that. Those are 2 guys that are going to be battling for a potential bench spot on the Mets. Both very promising outfield prospects for the Mets. So yeah, those are guys I would keep an eye on that aren't, the stereotypical guys that are expected in the starting lineup. Do I expect another move? Yes, I do. At least one. Solomon, thank you so much for the $10 donation. Hype in the chat for Solomon, guys. Hey, Warrior, love the Mets and MLB content. Thank you so much. Optimistic hope for the Mets in 2022. I agree. I think that Josh Hader would be a great fit for the Mets. He might be coming tonight. Can you talk about Hader? There really isn't much more for me to say about Hader. All I can say is that Hader would be a tremendous get for the New York Mets. That would take their bullpen over the top. If the Mets land Hader, it's hard to argue that they aren't potentially the team to beat in the NL East, just based on player acquisition wise. Offensively, I would still like them to do one more move, but Hader eats so much innings for you. He's a shutdown closer. And if you compare him with Edwin Diaz, you cannot go wrong. And by no means do I think that Hader is someone that the Mets necessarily need. The Mets need a lefty. So that's where he obviously checks out for sure. But besides that, the Mets are a team where they can be fine, but Hader takes them over the top. He's more of a luxury than a necessity, if that makes sense. Same way that you had Craig Kimbrell and, Liam Hendricks last season for the White Sox. Their bullpen's so stacked. They just signed Joe Kelly yesterday too. So you can never have too much bullpen help. And if you land arguably the best reliever in baseball, yeah, that obviously is a great thing. I don't think Hader's going to happen tonight. I have no clue if anything's going to happen with Hader. All I know is that the Mets have been connected with him, and that's always a good thing. Even if talks have not gone far, and even if they never get far, it's always good to see that they are connected. And thank you so much for the donation, my friend. What's my prediction for the Mets' next move? I think that they land another reliever. That's my prediction.